This is Colin Baker speaking, the Sixth Doctor, but you are the lucky ones because you are travelling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed at episode number 233. And we're quite pleased with ourselves. But then again, we usually are. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Quite pleased with myself.
I was better last week while I was off.
Glenn returned to work after a week off and had to stay late.
Womp, womp, womp.
Keith's better because he didn't have to work my shift today.
I am. Back to my normal shift. For 3 days. But then I get a better shift later in the week, so that's nice.
You get a better... Oh, your day side next... Or the last part of the week?
Thursday and Friday because there's golf on Fox in prime time, as weird as that is.
That is weird. That's really weird.
It's the first time they've ever done it. Probably the last time, too.
Yeah, I can't imagine they'll get very much viewership, but I don't know, maybe. There might
Who knows?
There's some golf fans out there, I suppose.
For those of you still watching, why?
Did you guys have a good week? Do anything fun with your time off?
I did a whole bunch of stuff, and I can't remember what it was now.
How many items on your honey-do list did you knock out?
0.
All right. It was a good week.
Well, I had the kids because my parents went out of town because they usually watch the kids in the afternoon. So we did a lot of... Like, mornings were taken up because they had swim lessons all week. And then we did go bowling on Friday, which was a lot of fun. We went and saw Jurassic World on Saturday. We saw something else this week, though, didn't we? No, we didn't. I talked about Cinderella last week, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I don't feel like I did anything on my vacation.
I know you went to
the library. We went to the library and saw a magician. And Caitlin loved him. Mason had a good time, too. Yeah, we went bowling on Friday, and Caitlin mowed the lawn for the first time.
Hey!
Yeah.
How'd that go?
It went great. She did just fine. I just kind of monitor her. She did have shorts on, so she went in and put something on to cover her legs after she got hit by rocks the first 2 times.
See, I didn't have that problem when I mowed in shorts last. I just had mosquito bites all over my legs.
Yeah.
And she was actually able to find a time between rain showers, apparently, to mow then, because I sure didn't.
We did it. It was Wednesday after we got home from the library. So, knowing that it was supposed to rain Thursday and Friday, we got out there and got it done. So
I can't remember why I didn't get out there and do it on Wednesday. The nice thing about working your shift is I still got up my normal time and did stuff around the house.
Because you had an extra hour.
Yeah. Loads of laundry and whatnot.
When we say Keith,
more stuff.
Keith had to fill in my shift, it's only an hour later than his normal shift. So
but it's
not like he has to completely restructure his day. But
almost an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Big enough of a difference. Well, and also Sarah's asleep by the time I get home by that time and whatnot. So
welcome to my world.
Yeah, it's a bigger change for me than probably it should be.
Holly passed her, almost said bar. That's not right. She passed her state boards.
Yay!
Yay!
Congratulations, Holly.
Which was the one thing she was really, really nervous about. She took them Monday. Did I talk about this last week?
Nope.
We recorded on Monday.
We recorded on Monday, but you didn't
talk
about it.
She passed her boards.
That was why we recorded on Monday.
That's right. When she passed her boards this week, she took the test. Maybe I didn't talk about it because she didn't know how she did. She took the test on Monday. You get 7 hours to take this thing, and she went and finished in an hour.
That's either really, really good or really, really bad.
But she waited until Thursday night when she got the results to tell me that she was only there an hour. Because what happened was, because I was home Monday morning, she got up before we all got up, took her test, and then she came home at about 11:30-ish. She test starts at 7. She got home at about 11:30. And I looked at her and I said, "Are you done?" She goes, "Yeah." And I said, you said it's like a 7-hour test. She said, well, you have 7 hours to take it, but you take it at your pace, and if you get done early, you get done early. I said, oh, okay. I said, okay, so it'll only take you 3 hours. She didn't say anything. And she got her results on Tuesday night. She said, all right, I'm going to fess up. I actually only took an hour to take the test because it was going so poorly, and I didn't think I was doing well, and so I just went, okay, because it's weird because you go in there, and there's like uber security. You can't take gum in there. You can't take cell phones. You can't take purse. You have to go all through this
gum.
You can't take gum. I don't know. You have to go. You have to go through and I don't know. They take a picture of the veins in your hand or something instead of a fingerprint. It's weird. Anyway, there's this huge security thing. You go through once you've answered enough questions. It's electronic, so once you've answered enough questions to determine whether you're going to pass or fail, it shuts off. So she got to a point where I don't know if it just shut off on her or what, but then she was like, okay, so she didn't think she did very good. She thought she was going to have, because it's like $100 to take this test every time you take it. She thought she didn't do very good. So she said Tuesday night, she said, well, I'm going to fess up. It only took an hour and a half to do this test. And I went, what? She goes, yeah, but if I had to come home an hour and a half later and and then I failed it, you'd have told me, well, if you'd have done it longer and taken longer time. She thought I was going to scold her for it. And I go, I said, no, I wouldn't have done that. She goes, oh, really? Well, maybe I would have. But anyway, so then she told me the last time she took her state boards for when she became an LPN, she did the same thing. She was in the test for 3 hours, but told me she took 5 hours. So what she did is after she was done, she just went shopping. She said, I had to get my mind off of it because I was so bummed that I probably did bad and failed it. She went to like Bed Bath & Beyond and all these different places. Fortunately, she didn't buy anything or I would have been on to her. But, yeah, I thought it was kind of cute and funny that she thought after taking an hour but no, she passed it. So she starts her new job on Monday because now that she's an RN, she applied for... She works in nephrology, which is kidney doctor. They take care of kidneys. She's going to actually start working with a cancer center. And she doesn't know exactly what she's doing yet because they're kind of shifting the structure around a little bit. So they don't know exactly where she'll be working, but she'll be a nurse over there. So she's excited. And making more money. Considerably more money.
Sweetness.
Nice.
Yes. So... that Caitlin had a game tonight. A couple of games tonight, but I only got to one of them.
Volleyball, right?
We'll talk about Jurassic World, I'm sure, in a little bit. Everybody's seen it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we were able to... I mentioned we watched Jurassic Park last weekend. We were able to get both Jurassic Lost World and Jurassic Park 3 in this weekend. Sarah was not impressed with Lost World. She remembered parts of it, but overall she was
She remembered the trailer.
She remembered the trailer and...
Trailer scene.
The trailer
scene.
And the very beginning of it, actually. I don't know why those two bits stuck with her, but the rest was pretty new to her.
Because she watched it the last time. She fell asleep. The trailer scene was so loud, she woke up. And then after that, she fell back asleep.
Possibly. And then she rather enjoyed Jurassic Park 3.
It's a fun movie.
It's really enjoyable.
I don't know why people
I stand by that one.
I really don't.
Popcorn film. I love it.
I did watch some other stuff. I'm fully caught up on Arrow now, which is weird because now I feel a little lost that I don't have this behemoth of a show to try to watch. Season 3 was all right. Not as good as Season 2. I wonder if it's...
Season 3 kind of slags at the end, I thought.
Yeah, a little bit. Season 2 ramped up so much at the end that I mainlined the last 5 episodes, and I mentioned how I'd gotten away from mainlining like that. But this, I wound up watching the last 2 back to back just because, well, it's the last 2. I've got one more to go. I might as well watch it.
It might as well have been the end of the series the way they wrapped everything.
Yeah, really. And it ended kind of meh, but overall, it's still a pretty good show. I'm enjoying it. I wonder how much of it is spin-off slump is what I'm calling it. When there's a new spin-off and the showrunner's attention is divided a lot more. Because, Buffy Season 4, for some people, have that problem. And then Angel, kind of later when Firefly would be going. And I think that'd be Season 6 of Buffy, if I remember the timeline correctly, kind of slag off too because Joss is focused so much on Firefly. So I wonder if that's part of it. And it makes me worried about season 2 of Flash and season 4 of Arrow with DC's Legends of Tomorrow not be going on. Hopefully, if it's only a mid-season replacement, it might help this spin-off slump.
Mid-season premiere.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily replace anything.
Yeah, and we don't know how long it's going to be either. So it could be like an Agent Carter 8-episode gap fill or a full
bet
season.
they offer up at least 13, which is half a season. So.
Yeah. Which that's what they did with like iZombie, which finished this week and was really good. I also, the other thing I watched besides Jurassic World was Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome.
Yay!
I remembered parts of this movie. I did not remember Never Never Land. It's pretty much he goes off and becomes Peter Pan and Hook. And okay, so
Fly, Peter.
The first part was kind of like, all right, this is kind of weird, and then it takes that detour. But by the end of it, I really enjoyed it.
I'm an apologist for it. I don't think it's the best film of the series,
And
but
you know
it's
what?
fun.
I'm really
fun.
glad I watched it
Better
the way
than Mad Max.
Well, yeah. I'm really glad I watched it in the order I did because Thunderdome is very much a precursor to Fury Road. There's a lot of thematic elements and story elements he pulls from Thunderdome, especially the last part where they steal somebody and they go on a huge long run chase scene, and it's just this all out chase for the last 30 minutes of the movie. I mean, there's so much in there that feels very...
Did you watch the same movie that I did?
No, he's right.
I think I think he's right, but I think the chase was only about 15.
Well, it seemed longer. Well, it felt like it was a third of it. There was 3 parts of the film.
I would say it's the third part. I wouldn't say it's a third of it.
Okay,
Yeah.
the third part of it.
Okay. It's like the third act.
It just seemed like the way the movie was going, I did not expect this pretty impressive chase scene to end the movie with.
On a train.
On a train. I mean, there's a lot of that is very much precursor Fury Road. Some of it also with Max being all hairy and then later getting shaved by people. Not the same situation, but similar. I mean, him going into this new atmosphere and being a stranger. I mean, there's a lot of precursor to Fury Road to me. I'm
surprised I didn't pick up on as much since I watched it like back to back.
So maybe you should go back. Well, maybe you were just so blown away with Fury Road that it. So I would recommend. I think Fury Road makes Thunderdome better. That's my final stance on Beyond Thunderdome.
I could buy that.
And it takes some tones from
It retroactively fixes a few things.
Well, and not so much fixes it, just what
ties it into the franchise
makes it more
better.
enjoyable.
Yeah, they were trying to do this, but with a smaller budget back in the day, kind of thing.
Gotcha. I still thought the train stuff was impressive.
Yeah.
The train stuff's good.
That's
don't get
good.
me
The
wrong.
Thunderdome stuff is good. It's the Neverland part.
Yeah.
Why is this here?
Yeah. Well, and it's even
clearly has to be that middle bridging piece, but there's no why is it here. It's why is it so boring?
And why is it so drawn out and long?
Well, because that was the movie he was going to make. Yeah. He was going to make that movie, and then somebody said, who should be in this is Max. All right. So then they made it a Mad Max movie.
And we get that bit in Fury Road. It's just so much further down the future because the old ladies, the wet place that they talk about, could easily be this oasis that.
Yeah, I kind of remember getting that out of it. This might be.
So we get that just a very truncated version of it without kids and just old people instead. I mean, maybe
the kids grew up to be old people.
Yeah, that's kind of where my brain went.
Max is immortal.
There's just so much there for Fury Road that it really made me enjoy it, and I was kind of meh on it up until I made that connection about this wet place, and then this chase scene. I'm like, this last half of this movie is awesome. And it's not that I didn't enjoy the Thunderdome part because it was very enjoyable, but yeah. And even the design choices are very much in line with Fury Road. The designs of the characters and the way their outfits are more so leads to Fury Road. The characters and whatnot. Master and Blaster and stuff like that.
So structure-wise, it's Thunderdome and action-wise, it's Road Warrior.
Yeah, yeah.
Or tone-wise. it's Road Warrior.
Tone-wise, it's Road Warrior, and even action for a lot of Road Warrior.
I saw a great cosplay online that guy, I don't know what con he was at, but he was Master Blaster, and he had this gigantic hulking thing, but then he was kind of leaned back on the in the backpack.
Nice. That's pretty much all we did this week. Unpacked more stuff. Got a curio cabinet for $15 at a garage sale.
I saw
It's a nice one.
Sarah
too.
thanking some people for
Yeah.
bringing it over.
It's about 2 feet wide.
Were you
and a
not
feet
there?
Deep. I was asleep.
Okay, I was going to say, because she didn't
said-
thank you.
I said she
and
could've
I thought,
woken me up.
Where the heck is Keith in this whole
She
thing?
didn't want to wake me up, but she goes out every Saturday. Her and her mom goes out and goes to the farmer market and grocery shop. Or not grocery shop, garage sale. Last week they brought home one of those things to store wrapping paper, the Tupperware things, and a nice set of TV trays. And this time it was a curio cabinet for $15.
Tupperware. I knew what you meant, like Rubbermaid.
No, TV trays.
No.
Yeah, what I call it?
Tupperware.
Tupperware. Rubbermaid Tupperware.
So when you open it, it goes.
You gotta make sure you burp it.
Big
You know, like
Tupperware.
Erie, Indiana. So we were able to unpack a lot of knickknacks, pretty much all of them. And so now all we have to do is get some picture rail hooks.
You've been invited to his
wire.
house to see it yet?
Nope, not yet.
No, me neither.
Not invited.
No. Almost like he doesn't want us to know
I know.
it exists.
I've seen pictures of it.
Yeah.
I'm waiting to get it to a place where I'm more pleased with it, and it's almost there.
Well, I wouldn't have invited you guys over for like 3 years if I had gone with that.
And I invited
still
you
a
guys
work in
over for a
progress.
game night. We just haven't been able to organize it yet.
I guess that's true.
So
It's next weekend, right?
That's right.
We said my birthday weekend. So.
I had a plant for you, but it
Sean's going,
died.
I don't remember.
I had a plant for him, but it died. So.
Oh.
That's how long I've been waiting. I didn't water it. I just had it there, and I was expecting.
It's not your job.
It's not my plant.
It's
You know,
not your
it's-
job to water it.
He'll invited me over at some point, and he can have this damn plant. And then the plant went. It's like, oh,
You should have just stuck it outside with all the rain we've gotten.
I did.
It wasn't that he didn't water it; he watered it too much.
With all the rain, I didn't think I needed to water it. I'm trying to think if I did anything this week. I worked a lot. We're opening 2 new stores,
I
and
know something else I did.
I had to go in and
a lot of reading.
finally empty out a bunch of. We've been storing shelves in our back room for like a year and a half. And they finally said, you can put them on this truck. And we were like, cool. And I looked at Matt and I was like, all right, I'm going to get so-and-so. I'm going to bring the boys. We're going to do this. So-and-so volunteer. We're going to get this stuff out of here. And then he showed me this list. He goes, well, they only want X number of this and X number of that. I was like, no, they're getting all of it. You rented a 17-foot Ryder truck. I'm putting all of this stuff on here because it's been here for a year and a half and I'm done with it. And he says, no, they only want this. It's like, okay, so then we started loading. He goes, well, I suppose we could take a little extra. I was like, no, you told me only this. He goes, well, I asked him for clarification. He said, well, if we wind up with extra stuff, they're just going to put it on a different truck and send it to the warehouse. And this is when that little thing in my forehead began to twitch. And it was like, if there's room for it in the warehouse, why have we had it for a year and a half? Yeah. So we got most of it loaded. And then he sent me a text the next day when he got down there and said, how many more of those shelves we got in the bag? Quick count. You want these or these? No, just these. About 80. Anybody coming to Kansas City that could bring those?
No.
Well,
Bring that truck back.
I am, but they won't fit in my car because I've got a full load of people that are going to Kansas City. Oh, all right. I'll let them know. So, okay. And I thought, I feel really bad about that. And then I thought, no, I didn't. I told you to throw everything in that truck. If you'd have listened to me, you'd have had them.
Yeah.
So I did that on my day off. Went and got helped him get the truck, and then went back to work and loaded up. I was like, man, you're grumpy.
Get paid for that?
Well, yeah, but
right.
still,
It's
my day off, man.
It wasn't a day off then.
That's right. So I was a grumpy bear. And then on our day off, we went with some friends to Alamo Draft House in Kansas City to see Jurassic World. And then went to another friend's house later in the evening to have dinner. And had a really nice time. So, been a long day. So I still didn't get a day off because I was running. And we had it all planned out. We were going to do Jurassic Park 3 on Wednesday. And then that shelf thing happened, and I was at the store, and I was like, man, we didn't get it in.
So you didn't get to it?
We didn't get to it.
Well, luckily, it wasn't as important to have seen it recently.
No, realistically, you didn't need to see any but the first one.
We watched the third one on Wednesday. It was another thing we did.
The kids like it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they've both seen that one. So,
Oh, okay.
But we had to get it in. We had to make sure we saw everything ramping up to this weekend. So
Let's talk about it.
What do you guys think?
Dun, dun, dun! I liked it.
it's a very fun film.
Yes.
It's got tons of really good action sequences.
Yes.
It's a really good popcorn movie. It's really thin on plot.
Yep.
And it's really thin on character development.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I came out of the movie really enjoying it, very excited, but it is not anywhere near the best movie of the year.
No,
It's
no.
not
No,
anywhere the
no.
best movie of the summer. And I think that it's probably, if I were to rank the films, it's probably my second favorite right now.
It's just
But
barely above 3 for me.
yeah, it's probably right around
Those two
near
are very
barely,
close.
barely, because it really has that kind of that same feel because because the plot's so thin, and I had some real minor problems with it, but they were ones that I just kind of went, well, I'm having fun, so we'll just gloss it over.
Do we want to sound the spoiler warning and go into a little more detail?
Since we're reviewing the week of,
Yeah.
we probably should.
All right, so spoiler warning for those of you who have not yet seen Jurassic World. We may spoil. Okay,
I
so
don't
here,
think there's
here
anything
it is.
too major to spoil in Jurassic World to me.
They ruined our script.
You know,
Only one element.
yeah, there was one big element.
That one.
I was glad not to see the Barbasol cameo
know.
show up.
I was like, there's no can, there's no can, there's no can. And then the thing went, I was like, man, that was inevitable. I knew it was coming.
Well, when he said, "What's that
Unfortunately,
white?
that never
what's
comes-
that white thing there?" and I went, "Oh man, it's camouflaged."
Which they never do anything with again after that scene.
Not really.
They mentioned it later that it was camouflaged.
Yeah, but you see it all the time. It never
You
goes
see
into
it
hiding.
every time too. Even when it was white, you saw it back there, but it was just blending in.
I guess it just they built up that. Oh my God, it's camouflage.
Well, because
and then they don't do anything. They
When
feel
the
like
guys
they did
go out to
anything.
get it with their non-lethal weapons, which, okay, but then it's completely blended into the trees until it moves,
Right.
And that's when they go, "Oh my God, it's active camo." But after that scene, I think you're right.
after the active camera.
Yeah, after the active,
yeah,
they
yeah.
just drop it.
It's
It no longer
That's
has
pretty
that
late in
ability.
the movie, though. Well, but it
Well-
doesn't need it because it's continuing. There's this
it's
continuing
rampage,
movement,
yeah.
rampage. So it didn't need it. But they mention it when they're looking for it in the paddock, and they can't see it, and it's when the first guys go out. Yeah,
it's not so much the active camo; it doesn't show up on the
Infrared.
That's
Yeah.
right.
or the heat.
Are you talking about when the first group of guys go out there and they take the non-lethal weapons?
Yes, those guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's mentioned again
After that,
but I can't
Okay.
remember what reference, and we don't see it camouflaged,
Yeah,
but they
it doesn't-
talk about
yeah.
the reason they're having difficulty finding it or they don't know that it's there is because of the active.
Oh, okay.
because
Maybe
of
I
the
missed that line.
I can't
re-
remember
really-
exactly what the line was, but there was another mention of the camouflage.
I really enjoyed the movie. It doesn't come close to the first film or the books, but it tries. It gets closer to the target than the sequels do on trying to achieve the feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that
It doesn't quite land it, but it gets pretty close.
I
Well,
would.
the awe and wonder of these dinosaurs, which I like that idea that they explored, that they're genetically modifying these creatures because our society's awe and wonder for these dinosaurs are gone. That was an
The
interesting
kid that's
thing
on
to
his
do.
cell phone,
Yeah.
standing in front of the T-Rex paddock.
Yeah.
It's like, here's a T-Rex, and I'm on my cell phone checking Facebook.
It's such a,
and,
also a fascinating commentary on society in general today, so I really appreciated that aspect. It felt like they started to explore it, and it could have done more to explore it even more.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
The scientific implications of all of this felt like they didn't explore it enough.
The park
Or
itself, I
hold
thought
it
they
enough
did
reverence.
a phenomenal job with everything in this park. Is when we were playing Jurassic Park Builder, this is what happened in my head. This is what I built, was this. And, this is what the first park would have been. This was John Hammond's dream. And it was like, oh, I get it. The one you saw in the movie was just like, it's kind of like a ride. There's a whole march later, and boom, 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 boom. And, and it's like, oh, this is what he envisioned. I was like, okay, great. And it was very Disney World,
even building on the ideas of what was in the first park with the feeding of the T-Rex and the fact that they built the ride, the design, the exhibit around that now.
Yeah.
Instead of just, you're driving past it.
Yeah. And the flare.
Yeah.
To call attention
the flare was cool.
to that.
Oh, well, even adding the kind of the SeaWorld element when they had the one that was in they were set up around this aquarium or this pool.
Yeah.
And then when the seats went down, and they said, "Now we'll show you," and I went, "Why has SeaWorld not decided to do that before? What an ingenious idea!"
Note to self: blast doors that close over that, so that when things go bad, you're in there. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's just put everybody in there, and they go and close it up.
I think, unfortunately, the because of this film, they can't do another Jurassic Park, though. They can do another film in the series, and they will. There'll be a sequel. But you can't have another Jurassic Park or Jurassic World structured film, because once this happens now again, after you've put all these protocols into place and all that, you have, this park that does this, and then chaos ensues, and even worse than the last time. Because this time, it's not pre-park opening, it's while there's visitors there.
Right.
So, unfortunately, we're going to get something like Jurassic World, or a Lost World, and Jurassic Park 3 in the next sequence of this series. And unfortunately, that's a sad thing, because I think that was the detriment to the series, was doing we upped the body count for Lost World, but we had to do it in such a way where it was people that were professionals knowing what they were doing, and they were the ones that were being... they went into danger. It was, that was hazard pay right there is what that was. Whereas when you're doing a park, you've got kind of average, everyday people that are just working there. You got the professionals, but you've got the people there, and then on top of that, you've got guests that you've put in danger now. So you're going to get that same type of movie in order to continue. You can't say, well, we fixed the protocols that failed last time, and now we're going to bring everybody back, because nobody's coming back to your park. This is the second time that the park has messed up. So
I don't know. I'm kind of the opinion that whether you count 2 and 3 as part of this particular film's continuity or not.
You do.
Which I do.
Yeah. I
haven't quite figured out how yet.
Here's the thing is,
they didn't ignore it.
It didn't ignore it. Well, no, it just didn't mention it. It never it never blatantly says anything or telegraphs anything that wipes clean the last 2 films.
Other than the owner, I can't remember his name, when he's going on about John Hammond's dying wish, as he entrusted the park to me, was to make this work, and spare no expense was his motto. That's very much the John Hammond from the first film, and not the John Hammond who became the naturalist in Lost World.
See, I disagree.
I can't see him making that flip back to that and going, yes, go build a park.
I disagree. I think that Hammond still could have... I think Hammond still had the dream. He was just, at that point, more concerned about the dinosaurs on the other island.
Yeah.
He didn't express the capitalist ideas that he had.
Oh, and he was also trying to convince
him,
Ian to go to the island, and that's how he's going to also best convince him that John Hammond has turned over this leaf, and that's a way to
you
try
think it was a snow job?
Partially.
Well, I don't know that it was a snow job. I think that
he cared about the dinosaurs. I get that.
I think what Hammond knew couldn't happen was bringing the dinosaurs to the mainland, which is what InGen tried to do in Lost World. I think he knew that wasn't a good idea, but I think that he never lost the idea that the park could work, and so I never got the impression that was the case. Yeah.
Okay. But where the struggle would be is that sense of wonder, because this film had it with look at the dinosaurs and showing me the wonder and the spectacle of that. I think that's part of
why 3 is better. It has some of that wonder
and 2 doesn't work, because 2 kind of takes the dinosaurs. We get one little bit of wonder, and even that's kind of tainted with Ian's, first it's ooh-ah, and then there's running and screaming. And the rest of the time, the dinosaurs are pretty much just the monster in the dark, and so they're not they're not that graceful, elegant animal. They're just
No, I
something
agree.
to be afraid of.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where you're going to run into trouble with, going down the road.
I would agree. I think that's why I think that you won't be able to do as good of a film as Jurassic World, because you're going to have to change the structure as they did with Lost World and Jurassic World 3.
Yeah.
Now, having said all of that, I don't know. If this was real world and you saw this horrible thing and the park said, okay, we fixed it, would you still, and we slashed rates?
Well, people are still going on Carnival cruises.
would you go?
Or whatever cruise line that was.
Because keep in mind that, okay, what caused this failure? It's like, well, we idiotically genetically engineered a weaponized dinosaur.
Well, we know they're going to continue to do that, though, because that's why,
And, yeah.
what's his name?
Henry Wu escapes.
Yeah, Wu ends up escaping. Which, that was my other... It was one of my other problems with this film was Wu was almost a little too mustache twirling.
He became the evil scientist.
Yeah, he was the mad scientist, and even though they kind of say that, it seemed like just a weird dynamic change in that character from the first film. Even though we didn't get much from him in the first movie, it was like they were looking for that villain, and they didn't need it, because the villain was the weaponizing program.
Yeah.
Was the using raptors to hunt, using them as weapons.
Well, and
that was the villain of the film.
pretty much
Engine still is the villain of the film, so you don't need the mad scientist. And so they're clearly setting that up for a bigger.
I think
another
that's
movie.
partially why this and Lost World didn't quite hit that mark for me. Is what I like about the first one and what I like about 3 is there is no villain. It's just man versus nature, people trying to survive. And when you try to have an antagonist in something like this, personified in what the nephew or Vincent D'Onofrio or Wu, it just takes something out of the story for me. But that being said, Wu had one of the best lines, in my opinion, of the movie, fixing so much, even in the first 3, of why the dinosaurs don't look like how they should.
Yeah.
That was such a brilliant way to
We've always
to
filled in
appease
the
these
gaps in
scientific people who are saying this is not what dinosaurs look like.
Right.
I love that aspect of it completely. And all the little nods too. Did you guys see Ian?
I didn't see.
There's
Ian.
like Ian cameo there, and
There's like a picture of him or something.
yeah, on the back of a book.
Oh, I didn't.
On the
I
guy
missed
with the
that.
Jurassic Park shirt's desk.
Oh, I did
There's
not
a
see
stack
that.
of books, and the very back one is his
Oh, so he's got
picture.
Ian's book.
Yeah.
His book. Oh, that's cool. Well, I like the Hammond Research Center. That was a nice nod.
Yeah,
and they talk about
the
Hammond,
Dilophosaur
obviously.
cameo was nice.
Yeah.
And so well done.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
That was an amazing, when the raptor...
No, just a hologram.
I don't know how I feel about the Raptor program in general. Part of me that feels like that's a step towards the dinosaurs with guns that I don't want to see them go.
Quite honestly,
They did it better than I expected.
that's
them
just
to.
it. Leading up to it and seeing a lot of the clips, I really have this real problem with it. But it was handled well.
Yeah.
It actually worked the way that they did.
I think part of it also, it feels like the movie was trying to do too much. Had they stripped away some of those antagonists and possibly the Velociraptor program a little bit, and just we made this dinosaur that's causing havoc, it could have been a better movie.
I think my other
Would
problem
have let us invest in the characters more too.
I think my other problem with the film was, and this was only a problem up to a certain point, was when she goes to open paddock number 9, and I went, "You've got another genetically modified dinosaur that's going to fight the old genetically modified dinosaur? Come on!" And then
I knew.
Then,
I
she
knew
goes,
that was
then they brought out the T-Rex, and I went, "Okay, cool. I'm okay with that." So then they bring the T-Rex out, and this is where we're getting into major spoilers here, because we're going to
Huge
talk about
major
the end of the
spoilers at the end of the
Because
movie.
you don't see
number
the
9,
T-Rex
number
other than
9
the
out,
beginning.
and
Yeah.
now we've got the T-Rex fighting this thing, and I'm thinking, okay, this kind of feels old hat. And then we've got the final rogue raptor that comes in, and now it's the raptor and the T-Rex that are the hero fighting the new genetic modified. I can't even remember the name of it, even though it's
Indominus Rex.
Indominus Rex. And then they got this secret about why, that was another thing that was weird was, well, we can't tell you what we mixed it with.
I believe.
What?
I kind of clued into that pretty early on. Too.
Well, then yeah. So
Once
then
you-
I
especially
thought,
once
okay,
you-
it's obviously mixed with a raptor.
And once you saw the full design of the Indominus Rex, yeah, it's totally a T-Rex and a raptor
So
together.
then, okay, so that's fine. So then we've got
Who
these
thought
two.
that was a good idea?
Then we've got these
That
two.
surprised the heck out
We
of
got
my
these two
mom.
dinosaurs fighting the genetic dinosaur, and I went. It feels like you took the joke, like when comedies do a sequel and then they try to redo all the same jokes and it fails. I'm watching this thing going, we're just doing Jurassic Park again now. We're just making
When it
heroes out of
hadn't
these two.
done it at all, which I was really
Yeah,
pleased
and
with.
so then I'm going, oh, now this feels really old. And then when they threw the... then the next one came up and I went, oh, you totally Jurassic Park that in the best way ever.
Here's the deal. So we
that was the actual Jurassic Park moment.
I went, okay, I'll give you that. That's what I was okay with it all. I was like, I'm glad you brought the other two in there because you completely blindsided me.
they set it up with open Paddock 9, and I remember the
well, first
the
thing
line
was the
we need
kid
more
counted
teeth.
the teeth, and
Yeah.
then he goes, we need more teeth.
we need more teeth. At the beginning of Jurassic Park, or at the end of Jurassic Park, in the making of the first film, there's a story that Spielberg tells. It wasn't going to end that way.
Right.
And he said, we need to bring back the T-Rex. The T-Rex is the hero of the picture. We need to have him in this fight. So that's why the T-Rex shows up at the end, even though, how did he get in the film?
That's the problem.
We don't
is
care.
We don't know how he got
We
in
don't
there.
care.
doesn't
It's
matter.
like blowing up the shark at the end of Jaws. It had to happen. So we get that moment. It's like, yay. And the T-Rex isn't in this film at all.
I was
it
starting to realize he wasn't.
He's
by
that one
point.
background
One
shot.
scene where they were going to feed the
The goat.
goat to it. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
really
that
all
was
it
it.
is.
Yeah.
And so go open Paddock 9, and I went, be a T-Rex, be a T-Rex, be a T-Rex. And it was. I was like, yes!
And it's not
here
just
comes the
a
hero.
T-Rex.
It's
It's
the
the
T-Rex.
T-Rex
yeah.
from
So
the
it's like,
first
here's
film.
the hero of the film finally showing up. It's like, all right. And then it gets his ass kicked. I mean, it's just brutal.
Although we know it couldn't be the T-Rex from the first one.
No, it is.
That's what they've said.
The filmmakers have said there are 2 stars from the first film that come back, Henry Wu and the T-Rex.
I think they're saying
And it's got
that
the
in
scars
more
from
of a...
the Raptors.
No, they're saying
Old
that...
scars.
Oh, the scars were on it. Well, then
Yeah.
they've messed that up completely.
Well, no,
Well,
there-
because
there's a
all
line-
of the dinosaurs on Island Nublar...
No, there's a line.
Island Nublar.
Eastland Nublar.
Died out from
There's
the
a line
lysine
in,
deficiency.
There's a line in Lost World where they say they pretty much write off the lysine deficiency for both islands.
No.
Yeah.
No, he said all. Well, he said all of the ones that were.
Well, and he says no. Life found a way.
Yeah, that's right. They did. throw that.
They never
They
mention.
waved your hand
They
over
never
it.
mention
Yeah, that's
Nublar. They mentioned the other one. And he says, "Shouldn't they have all kicked?" And he says, "They should have, but by God, they're flourishing." And
So, and you can
there's a
take
whole-
that assumption
so
that
it worked on
Nublar
both
did
islands.
too. Yeah.
I'll give you that.
But so it's the T-Rex. Okay, it's cool. And then the Raptor teams up with it, and it's like, okay, well, this is cool. And immediately I thought, you got to get this thing over to the water. That's how this has to end. I just knew you got to get this fight down the street further. And it slowly got. I'm like, hurry up, get there, hurry up and get there, hurry up and get there. Yes! And people broke into applause. And it was just like the greatest summer moment so far. You know,
Well, I
just,
did when it came up over the side and got it, and I went, and Holly goes, "You didn't expect that, did you?" And I said, "No, I didn't expect that."
There's a. I didn't realize it, but of course, a lot of product placement. We had Samsung and Verizon Wireless presents Indominus Rex. And, all these.
Oh, there was another returning character from the first film, Mr. DNA.
Oh
DNA?
yes. I squeezed a little bit of that.
I did
Did
too. But did you happen to catch Jimmy
me
Buffett's
sad it's not
Margaritaville on
Oh,
Main
yeah.
Street?
Yeah.
I didn't realize this until later. The guy that's rescuing his margaritas, he's got 2 margaritas during the pterodon attack when the pterodactyls were coming down.
he
Was that Jimmy
It's
Buffett?
Jimmy Buffett. He's
Now
in the
you
movie.
say that, it makes sense because my first thought, I looked over to Holly and said, "That guy was a lot more concerned over his margarita."
But yeah,
Another thing I liked about it was they didn't try to rehash the same things from the previous movies. They could have tried to redo the iconic moments and improve them, and they didn't. There was a little bit with the gyrosphere, but they changed it enough that it wasn't the SUV with the T-Rex.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
amazing.
with
Yeah.
the
like,
glass.
Like those all those big
no, it was-
iconic dinosaur moments weren't there. There weren't the raptors in the kitchen. They didn't try to.
They
up all
were
of
really
those kind of.
they
like
were there,
what
but
Lost
they were
World tried to
so
do.
well disguised.
Yeah.
Well, like-
because they kept that structural.
like
they
the
were-
birdcage,
Yeah.
it's like, here it is, and this is what's happening. It's okay.
They reinvented
You know, that
the
makes so
ideas.
much more sense that the dinosaurs did survive that were still on Niblar because of the fact that the old center was way back in the restricted area
Yes,
as well.
I love that
That makes
cameo,
sense.
too.
That makes sense. Yeah, and the
That
Jeeps,
was
the
so-
gas-powered Jeeps.
and the banner.
Yeah, they put it around the thing and made a torch out of it. Even I thought that was kind of cool. Yeah, it's a fun film.
I was this close to
enjoyed it.
getting misty once they started walking through that old center.
Yeah. And the music was great. Michael Giacchino did a really great job kind of
and
echoing the John
I didn't
Williams
know
theme
who had
throughout.
done it, and once I saw his name, I was like, "Yep." I could hear him. I wondered throughout it if it was Williams or if it was
Williams
him.
got some credit because of the
Oh yeah,
couple of the
and he did in Lost or 3 also.
Yeah,
he got
that's
credit
right.
for the theme.
The ball scene I did love. I love how the tonal shifts went like this during that whole thing, because at first it was humorous that the thing couldn't quite get its jaws around it. It was trying to pick it up, and it was like, and then the teeth went, and it was like, oh god. So I mean, just one moment to the next in that film. I really wish the characterizations would have been just a little bit more. Like, we get one line about mom and dad are divorcing, and then that's dropped. We don't go
See,
back to
I
that.
think they could have done a lot.
okay with,
I think
was
that's
okay with that. I didn't need that.
Well,
it makes the plot feel thinner, but it.
Yeah, I mean, I
They
just
could have done more.
there's something that you could have done, and we didn't get it. I feel like the guy, when he's all like, "I can fly the chopper. Come with me, boys." Like, see you later, dude. You're not going to come back from this. And I liked him.
I like that the one guy that came over with him the first time when she was in the back riding, he runs off and she goes, "Is he okay?" And he ran over there to get sick.
Oh, he's just being dramatic.
He's just being dramatic. But it was
That guy was a neat part. I just say
Yeah.
he wasn't the villain. He wasn't the
wasn't the
bad
villain.
guy. He was just
and he wasn't quite John
he was the
Hammond,
eccentric
but he was enjoyable.
millionaire is what
Yeah.
he was. That was pretty cool.
I just liked. There was so much of this that was just, like you said, it's a fun popcorn movie. That's really where
It's
you
a
just
great
come down on
installment
it.
in the franchise.
It is. It's not as good as the first one, but it's just a lot of fun. And I had a blast. So
I noticed the names in the theater, but it didn't click. The screenwriters, 2 of them, wrote Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So they're working their way through my franchises. Wonder what they're going to do next. If they keep this rate, it's going to be good no matter what it is.
Well, they're getting better because Rise was just kind of.
Well, it was no Dawn, but come on.
Rise
You got to
was-
start somewhere.
Rise was also fun, which
Yeah,
means
Rise was
that
fun.
that they'll come back with somebody else to write the next one. It'll be dark.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work for Jurassic
I don't know if you guys
Park.
heard, but it did domestically is number 2.
No, number 1.
Did it
Number one
surpass
domestically,
Avengers?
finally,
And worldwide.
Well, worldwide
globally,
it was.
it
Globally, yeah.
busted a record globally.
Yeah, 500 million.
It
opening
surpassed
weekend.
Harry Potter and surpassed Avengers. In
Okay,
both-
I saw it
both
early on
categories.
Sunday, so they must have racked up
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
more.
they
Sunday
act-
I
visitors.
think Monday
they-
is when the actual, or this morning was when the actual numbers came back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it had actually taken number 1.
Barely.
Yeah. It
By
just scratched
1.8 million or something like that.
Disney's demanding a recount.
Universal bought extra tickets or something.
it in Florida.
Wouldn't that be a hoot to go see it there?
All right.
So moving on.
Let's move on.
News. We have some convention news. Elihu has announced some guests, including Paul McGann and Wendy Padbury. So that's exciting. I guess they had some cancellations too.
They did. They lost 2, and I don't have that pulled up because I didn't think we were doing this.
But as Sean pulls that up, I'll transition to other cancellations at another convention. And unfortunately, Stephen Thorne won't be at Time Eddy this year. So
I'm glad we met and interviewed him.
he suffered a loss in his family. So
Oh,
he has had to cancel. So
our thoughts go out to.
maybe next year for Time Eddy 2.
Gemma Redgrave and Nick Briggs can't be with them at Elihu 3.
That's too bad.
Yeah, so
Other news.
maybe filming commitments.
Jim is a big one.
Yeah.
Oh, Nick's big too, but he goes to a lot of conventions in the stateside.
Maybe filming commitments.
Probably
Or
big finish commitments. If it's those two.
In other news, a producer with Series 9 wrote on Twitter, "We'll be back in September." It then very shortly was deleted. So,
How can this be?
Series 9 might be coming back in September or sooner. Or this seems to be a problem with producers.
This happened last year.
last
Similar
year.
situation.
Very similar. Which last year...
Not on Twitter. I think it was in an interview last time.
Yeah, it was. This article that I pulled up points out last year it began August 23rd, which coincided with a late summer bank holiday weekend. And this year, that same bank holiday weekend is the 29th. So that's pretty much September. So
Yeah. It's about as close as you can get.
Easter Saturday.
Easter Saturday.
Only if I say it's not going to happen. That's when it becomes Easter Saturday.
And our last bit of news, Moffat has been awarded an OBE, which is Officer of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire.
Yay!
As part of the recent celebrations that are happening over there for whatever reason. That part I'm not sure on.
There's a party.
I'm fuzzy
I'm
on
sure
that.
some monarch is having a shindig.
Yeah. And tangentially related, Benedict Cumberbatch was awarded the Commander of the Most Excellent Order. So he's a rank above Moffat.
And a proud papa now.
Did the Cumber baby get anything?
Not that I'm aware of.
Do we know what the Cumber baby is?
It's a boy.
It is a boy? I just knew that it
child.
came. I was...
One of those.
They did have a child.
Congratulations,
It wasn't
Reg.
an
It's
alien.
a
It
squid.
wasn't an animal. It was a child.
I haven't seen a name.
I hadn't
I'm
heard
sure
the sex.
somebody knows, but I haven't looked that closely.
It's George.
I want to say
I'm a year
Arthur.
behind, and that was a royal baby. Never mind.
I want to say Arthur, but I could be wrong.
Reginald Cumberbatch.
Arthur,
Reginald.
Cardinal, going into it. Cumberbatch.
Well, there you go. That's it for news.
Well, in that case, should we move on to our Doctor Who legacy?
Tip of the week.
We're going to do a short one this week again. Again, if you have any tips, you don't want my short abbreviated versions, send them in. I wanted to point out that keep in mind your perk system. I think there's a tendency for people to not necessarily forget about their perks, but forget to go in and adjust their perks. But one of the things that I want to make sure that you, and unfortunately with the perks, I'll be the first to admit that sometimes it's a little bit cumbersome to go in and have to change your perks when you change teams up. It would be nice if you could assign perks based on each individual team, which I think would be ideal. Is it? That would be wonderful.
I thought I heard that.
If
I suggested it to
Lee.
Maybe that's
Lee and
what
Susan.
I'm
Lee and Susan.
They said, "Oh, that's a good idea." I was like, "Yeah, I know."
If you could do that, it would certainly make it easier. But it really, if you know your perks, that's the first thing you should do is familiarize yourself with perks. Make sure that you go in there and you're using those perks. Those perks give you a lot of advances and a lot of advantages when you bring the certain teams in there with them. Predominantly one color team, there are perks that are very suitable to them, giving bonuses for those gems. We've talked a little bit about the ones that give you extra gems when they come in. They give you bonuses at the beginning of a wave, those sort of things. Some of the really, really good ones are in Perk 1 section, or the technical enhances, where you can, if you form certain shapes, whether it be a five across line, a cross shape, or a T shape, you can get some pretty good bonuses for that. So make sure you're paying attention to those. And one thing that I wanted to bring up is if you're somebody like me, for the longest time, I had made sure I have every perk open and activated, everything all the way up to the S perks. But what I realized was the most recent perk that came out was Perk 3 that was unreleased and I've unlocked, is Leech and Stalwart. And if anybody doesn't know what those are, haven't got that far yet, Leech will decrease the team health by 13% each turn, but it does boost all primary and secondary color damage by 5%, which can be beneficial to you. Unfortunately, you're taking a loss of 13%. So if you have a very strong, if you have a good team with a lot of health, that one might be something that's beneficial to you. And then Stalwart is... Oh, I did that backward. No, I didn't. Oh, come on. Seriously?
I'm assuming Stalwart is the reverse.
Stalwart is kind of the reverse. It increases the team health by 8% each turn, but decreases all primary and secondary color damage by 13%. So if you have a team that is very low on health, but you have, a pretty substantial amount of damage that you're dealing to the enemy, that might be one to turn on. But what I wanted to point out to you is you also have the option to shut those perks off completely and not assign that perk. And I think what a lot of people do is they go in there, they've unlocked the perk, so they want to use it. So they throw it together and they say, okay, I'm going to use it. When you come to this one, because you have a negative on each side, you have a bonus and a negative on each side, sometimes it's not important to use either of those. If you don't need to advance your health at the cost of your damage or vice versa, you can shut that off. And make sure that if you are using a team that is very well balanced and you don't necessarily need those, don't forget to turn those off, because they're only doing you damage if they're not doing you enough good as well. So my tip is to make sure you go in there, familiarize yourself with those perks, and also realize that you don't always have to use them. You don't always have to have them on. Every one of the perk system has an option to turn them off entirely, even if you've got it unlocked. And sometimes that might be to your benefit as well. And the reason I use Leech and Stalwart is because of the flip side, benefit to cost. So that is your Doctor Who legacy.
Tip of the week.
Speaking of weak, that was very weak.
Tip of the week.
There you go.
Normally you cringe when I do it.
Well,
So.
you'd been right up on top of the mic when you do it, so.
Well, shall we move on to feedback?
Feedback of the week.
Doesn't have the same ring.
Really doesn't.
And it won't, because I won't put the echo on.
Aww. Just got to learn to do that.
First bit of feedback comes from Ben. Ben writes, parenting level, brown coat. Hey guys, just listened to the show at work. As always, well done. Not a whole lot going on here. It's rainy and dreary at the moment. Yesterday saw me doing my civic duty as I showed up for jury duty. It's my third time being called. Twice now at the county level, I've been summoned. First time they sent me home because I knew the officers involved. I'm a former police officer. Like Glenn. Yesterday...
I didn't know that.
Yesterday, they sent us all home after the defendant failed to show up, and a warrant was thorny issued for their arrest. The other time I was called for jury duty was at the federal level. That one I did serve for just over a week as the foreperson. I don't mind jury duty, as I find the process fascinating. That brings me to my next bit. I love the Trek talk on the show. In addition to growing up with Doctor Who, the original series, Star Trek, was big in our house. Next up, I watched Percy Jackson and the Sea of Monsters with my younger son, Aiden. We both liked it. I would not say that it was a spectacular movie, though. The best part was when the kids went to the UPS store, and there was Nathan Fillion. My 9-year-old Aiden blurted out, "Hey, that's the guy from Firefly." Parenting level, brown coat. Lastly, I'm stepping away from Doctor Who with my reading as I begin the Song of Ice and Fire series with Book 1, A Game of Thrones.
Isn't it a Song of Fire and Ice? Did he say it backwards? Or is it Ice and Fire?
Song of Ice and Fire.
Huh. I thought it was Fire and Ice. Maybe it sounds better in my head that way.
That's the way everybody says it, but yeah, I think it's...
Most people just call it Game of Thrones. I'm not too far into it yet, but it's good so far. Nothing I haven't seen in the show. True to book form, though it's expanded on what we've seen on screen. That's it for now, guys. I hope you all have a great weekend. Take care and dry out. I'm Lord Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Ben, Nathan Fillion is the only reason I considered watching Percy Jackson and Sea of Monsters. I haven't seen the first one even.
The first one's good. I'll go on record in saying that. I thoroughly enjoyed the first one. It's vastly different from the book, which I went and read after I saw the movie. And the book completely goes in this direction, and the movie goes in this direction, but they're still equally enjoyable. I've not read the second book, but Mel watched the second movie and said it was horrible. So, but she really liked the first one, so maybe there's that bar to be set. I don't know, but I was really optimistic, and then she came back with a negative review, and I kind of went, that and none of the returning characters, I don't think, other than the kids, maybe. But
Yeah.
I don't know. But Ben liked it, so it can't be all bad.
Next up in feedback, Dr. Phil sent in some audio.
Let's give it a listen.
Sean, Keith, and Glenn. Hey, it's Dr. Phil again, wanting to send in some feedback on Project Lazarus and Arrangements for War. These are among two of my favorites of the Sixth and Evelyn adventures, and while I tend to every now and then go back and listen to Project Twilight, Project Lazarus, Arrangements for War, it is quite an interesting story, starting off with the adventures of dealing with the Forge, with Nimrod, and Project Twilight, Project Lazarus, Cassie Schofield's timeline, and how that plays into the Seventh Doctor's timeline when later with Project Destiny. I won't give any spoilers, but what's interesting about 7 in Project Lazarus and Project Destiny, which is the next one in the Project series, is that Seventh Doctor in Project Lazarus is post-Ace and Hex, pre-TV movie, and it sounds like in that story it's shortly before the TV movie. Now in Project Destiny, it's while he's still with Ace and Hex. So wibbly, wobbly, confusey, woozy-ing stuff. So anyway, but getting to the substance of the story, I find that Colin Baker's performances in these two audios are some of his best from Big Finish. I find that getting into spoiler territory here, so if you need to move, if you need spoiler alert, spoiler alert, spoiler alert. If you want to avoid spoilers, just don't listen for the next couple minutes. But we get a death scene from Colin Baker in Project Lazarus, which is something we didn't have on screen, which is something we're likely to have in 6's final adventure that's coming out this fall from Big Finish. But it's extremely moving, and I think both McCoy and Colin Baker are absolutely stunning in this story. While I think it's tragic that Cassie has to die, it really pushes the relationship between Evelyn and 6 much further, and I really appreciate with kind of the mature relationship material we get from Big Finish, because this is around the time that the new series is coming back. So you had lots of great and gutsy attempts from Big Finish for dealing with relationships between Doctors and Companions, which we did not see in the way that we see it in the new series with classic Doctors and Companions. So this is a big plus. The conflict that it causes in Rift that is played out in Arrangements for War, which Justice is a reference to something in the last season of the audio visuals, very small reference. But Rossiter is played by Gabriel Wolfe, the voice of Sutek, and it's interesting to hear him as a good guy. We also have Paul Darrow, I believe, doing the voice of Plenipotentiary Suskind, is it? I think. Anyway, I can't remember if it is Paul Darrow or not, but anyway, I think his voice is really exciting and timbrely interesting to listen to in that story. And I find that how Colin, while it's a kind of by-the-numbers Romeo and Juliet story, because good love stories don't end well, that it really shows that the Doctor does feel for when people die and that death and violence has consequences in Doctor Who. And as many times as Colin Baker has mentioned it, especially in something like More Than 30 Years in the TARDIS, is that, that violence in Doctor Who has to have consequences. You have to feel that people, when they lose things or die, that it's for something. Or if it isn't, that the meaninglessness has to be pointed out. And I think the fact that when the Doctor says that Nimrod just cuts her down, I love that point. I get teary-eyed at the end of both those stories, and I love even the 7 section of Project Lazarus as well. So anyway, those are my thoughts on some of my favorite stories, and glad you're doing, and cannot wait to hear what you guys have to say. While I'm this, I might not always agree with you guys. It's always great to hear some really interesting perspectives on all the Big Finish stuff. So looking forward to hearing more from you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, Dr. Phil. Good to hear from you again.
Always good to hear from you.
And we'll let you know what we thought of those shortly. Next up in feedback, we have Holly.
Holly writes, Project Lazarus and Arrangements for War. Hey guys, hope everyone is drying out from the rain. I thought I was going to have to do some Ark building. Loved the Bill Cosby's Noah's Ark reference from the last podcast. Also had a chance to see Jurassic World this weekend. Non-spoilery review. Wow, I want more. So we should probably cue that up first and then launch into ours. Tangents aside, on to the reviews. I have to say I really felt for Evelyn in this story, with everything that she's had to deal with and not telling the Doctor about her health, and then the loss of Cassie. The plot twist near the end with the Seventh Doctor realizing that the Sixth Doctor was a clone was something that I didn't see coming at first. This one really kept my attention. Arrangements for War. Well, this one picks up right where Project Lazarus left off for the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn. I can't say I don't blame Evelyn for being distraught at what's happened. At least the Doctor has realized that his comments aren't exactly the best and wants to make it up to her. The relationship that Evelyn forms with Rossiter was nice. At least Evelyn had someone to talk to about what had gone on and not worry too much about not being taken seriously. I can see why Evelyn thinks it's strange the Doctor doesn't stop to grieve. But then from what we know of the Doctor's history, he's lost a lot of people, and he would have spent a lot of time grieving, and him probably doing that alone. And we know how well he does traveling by himself. And everyone grieves differently. The ending conversation the Doctor and Evelyn had was very touching, and I think the two of them have a better understanding of each other. I'll wrap it up here. Looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts on these two stories. Holly from Wisconsin.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you.
A lot of good points there. Up next is Chrissy.
And Chrissy writes, Famous last words. Dear Vortex boys, I think I need a cookie, a puppy, and a hug after these two stories. Don't get me wrong, both are completely brilliant and well-told stories, but the emotional toll they exact on me, I kind of need to listen to Doctor Who and the Pirates just to have a little bit of levity back in my life. Project Lazarus. On a scale of leaving an innocent friend to die to facing clones of your previous incarnation, how traumatized are you? Bonus points for being utterly callous and unfeeling after Cassie's death and upsetting your companion. Not the Doctor's finest hour. Then again, I don't know what his better options were. And then the trauma doesn't end there, because the Seventh Doctor gets pulled back to the site of the Forge, maybe after dropping Ace off at the Time Lord Academy, who knows, and he has to face the consequences of the Forge years after his initial encounter. Clever idea, though, keeping secret the fact that this was a clone of the Sixth Doctor and not the actual Doctor added to the confusion and intrigue of what was going on. Arrangements for War. Or, as I'm going to call it, the Doctor is never, ever, ever, ever allowed to go on vacation. Ever. I mean, what in the world happened to simply visiting a peaceful planet and not meddling in important events and getting the heck out of town before anything goes to crap? Good grief. I mean, I enjoyed this one, but I knew that there was going to be huge problems with the Doctor helping the princess and her secret lover keeping their relationship going. The Doctor's read Romeo and Juliet, I'm sure, or ought to know better. Though I do like Evelyn's character arc in these stories... Oh, let me start back. Though I do like Evelyn's character arc in these stories, definitely cemented her standing as one of the very best companions in my eyes, Big Finish or otherwise. I like that she got to play a role in the political situation, and even that she had a bit of a love story of her own. Even better that her relationship with Rossiter was explored and allowed room to grow and become interesting. One of the best parts of this story, in my opinion. Okay, that's all I've got, and if you guys want us, Five-ish Fangirls, on the podcast, just let us know. We could probably work something out, not that I presume to speak for my fellow co-hosts, but I think it would be fun. Smiley face. Bye for now, Chrissy. Thank you, Chrissy.
Thank you, Chrissy.
We're going to work on that.
And we will let you know. Our last bit of feedback comes from
another Five-ish Fangirl,
Rachel. She says, I just want to give them a hug. Dear Vortex gang. Okay, I think I managed to pick myself up off the floor emotionally after listening to the audios for this week. Let's see how coherent my feedback is. Project Lazarus. I hadn't listened to Project Twilight yet, so I had to listen to it first. I knew the basic premise going in, that it involved vampires, but it was much more than I imagined. I understand now what Glenn meant when Lazarus made reference to some of the events of Twilight, but I think to get the full emotional aspect, you need to listen to both audios. The friendship between Evelyn and Cassie specifically is the emotional thread that ties them together, and it's the emotion that carries on further into Arrangements for War, but I'll get into that in a moment. As for Lazarus, I honestly got confused where the Seventh Doctor was going to get involved, because we get halfway through, if not further, before he makes his appearance. I have to say that I didn't see the Sixth Doctor, while the one who appears alongside the Seventh Doctor, being a genetic clone. Even more so that he was only a few days old. Nimrod's constant attempts at his so-called science disgust me, and his willingness to throw any and all experiments away if they don't benefit him is appalling. But I guess that's the sign of a good villain, and I'll be interested to hear what happens to Nimrod in any other audios. And poor Evelyn, to come so close to not only saving Cassie, but curing her as well so she could be reunited with her son, and then to have her brutally murdered by Nimrod. Well, I don't blame her. I don't blame Evelyn for being upset. As fantastic as life with the Doctor is, it can be very dangerous both physically and emotionally. It's stories like this one and Arrangements for War that make us realize why the Doctor is so overjoyed in the Doctor dances when just this once everybody lives. Arrangements for War. This is the audio that really got to me. I hear the strain on the Doctor and Evelyn's relationship, to hear the strain on the Doctor and Evelyn's relationship was heartbreaking. But of course, trouble can't stay away, and both get involved in the conflict on Vilag. Although it was an interesting twist to have them on opposite sides. Getting a little bit of Evelyn backstory with her talking about her mother and her sisters was nice, even if the story wasn't. Poor Evelyn and her budding romance with Rossiter couldn't endure. For now, spoilers. And the Doctor's reaction to the deaths of Christina and Reed, applause to Colin Baker. Just heartbreaking. I just wanted to grab both him and Evelyn and give them great big hugs. Kudos to Evelyn for meddling with the TARDIS's console so the Doctor couldn't go all Time Lord victorious with the timelines. We don't really see the Doctor grieve like that, but I guess this was the incident that broke the dam he erected for his emotions. Of course, the wall will go back up and be reinforced even more once the Time War begins. But for now, I'd like to think that the Doctor and Evelyn, as happy in the TARDIS with their hot cocoa, enjoying their adventures, while Evelyn's heart is healthy and the Doctor is happy. That's all for now. Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you, Rachel. Well, shall we move on to our reviews of Project Lazarus?
I think we shall.
I'll survive, Doctor. I always do. Unfinished business. A frightened girl is stalked in a land of eternal night. A hunter longs for recognition and power. A traveler in time returns to correct the mistakes of the past and faces a danger that could rob him of his future, unless his future intervenes. And in the shadows stands Nimrod, waiting. Welcome to the Forge.
Dun, dun.
Done. Really?
Nah, it doesn't get it done.
Doesn't get it done.
Just a dun, dun.
What a fascinating way to do a two-Doctor story.
Yeah, I would agree. Kudos to that.
To do two stories, essentially. Because we get pretty much two encapsulated stories with a through line going between them. It's almost Moffat-esque in that aspect of, okay, Big Bang, Pandorica opens are two stories, but have a through line going through them. This is the exact same thing. It's really well done in that aspect.
I agree.
And the stuff with Six and Cassie and Evelyn was pretty heartbreaking.
The acting is top notch. The emotional content is top notch. The gimmick of doing two doctors within one story while still being separately encapsulated was very cool. But I feel like the gimmick came at the expense of that through line. I feel like I wanted more of Cassie's story. I wasn't ready to let go of that. And now I'm coming at this also, keep in mind this is part 2 of 3. So it's very possible that whatever events of the third Forge story might retroactively fix this. But it just, we spent a lot of time in the first one kind of building this up. And then it seemed like at the first available opportunity, she was dismissed, and Nimrod is evil, and we're going to ha ha ha. I mean, he's really so over the top, mustache twirling.
More
Look
so
at me,
in this
I'm a
than
villain
previous,
in this one. That it was almost distracting because there's not a lot of motivation given for him. He's just evil, okay, but how did he brainwash her? How did he brainwash the Doctor's clone, for that matter? They don't get into it. Is it an electronic device? Is it something that he's developed at Forge? Surely that technology shouldn't be left lying around, but that question never gets asked because we're too busy. Look what he did. It's evil. Oh, we've got this portal with these poor alien beings that are trapped on our side. Let's dissect them and experiment on them. For what? I don't know. Oh, they're useless to me because what? There's just, it's evil science for the sake of evil science. And I think the story suffered because they really wanted to ram that aspect of it home for these two elements of, look, I killed Cassie, look, I cloned the Sixth Doctor, and he's only 3 days old, and I'm treating him badly. Ha, ha, ha. And it just...
I don't know what else they could have done with Cassie, though.
Well, I don't know either. But like I said, I just feel like if we're going to dump that story in order to get the Seventh Doctor's bit in there, I just wish it would have been done differently.
To me, it more felt like they had two germs of ideas that they couldn't fully develop into full 4-hour or 4-part stories, and so they decided, okay, well, let's figure out a way to make both of these cool stories or these stories work in one audio more than to the sacrifice. I would say the Seventh Doctor story is a little weaker, but for me, the cloning of the Doctor aspect of it overshadows these alien creatures that he's dissecting.
Yeah, I mean, the aliens are definitely the B-plot. But
yeah.
It's interesting enough that you guys bring this up because actually Mark Wright and Kevin Scott, who wrote the story, actually pitched 2 separate 4-part stories to Gary Russell, who then decided to truncate them into one story. And he says this was an anniversary year, and it seemed appropriate to release a multi-Doctor story in addition to Zagreus.
Zagreus.
So it sounds like Gary Russell's the reason why this kind of feels like it's kind of squeezed down.
Now, what did you think?
I'm kind of in the same boat as both of you, especially some of the points you hit on, and I'm not going to redwell on those because I completely agree with what you were saying about the mechanisms within the first part of this story. What I really liked, and I think what actually smooths this story over for me, is the fact that I like the way that they handled a multi-Doctor story. I like that we don't actually ever have two doctors, real doctors, together at the same time. So I like the gimmick, but I agree. I think at the expense of leaving out a lot of what the substance of the first part of the story. Because the second part of the story, I don't think that I felt like they left really any substance out. I didn't feel like I needed to know any more, other than I was still hankering for what the purpose of the Forge even was in the second story. But I had already gotten past that since we had truncated it all in the first story. I kind of wondered if we would get some more of a revelation or some fruition as to more of the meaning behind these experiences once we got to the second part, but we didn't. But because it was formulated in such a way that it was situational, I was kind of okay with the second part of this. So I actually enjoyed the second part of this. The thing that I had a problem with was I don't necessarily think I predicted that the Sixth Doctor was a clone. Although I
knew it couldn't be the actual Doctor.
That was the thing is, and
he was off.
Thankfully,
there was something off.
Thankfully, the Seventh Doctor at some point says, "Why don't I remember any of this?" And that was my initial thought when he first arrives: is the Seventh Doctor should remember this. Now, one of the things that's in the back of my mind is something that's set forth, and I love that they did, because it kind of does retroactively fix a lot of things, is I believe from the precedent that's been set forth in Day of the Doctor, the idea that once they're all together, they don't have any memory of what happened together once they've left, with the exception of, I kind of qualify that as the last incarnation. So Matt Smith's character in Day of the Doctor, to me, remembered everything that happened.
Yeah.
But the most recent incarnation of the Doctor, I believe, in those situations, remembers everything that happened before, because it's, in a way, part of his timeline. So I believe that happens. So that works in this way retroactively, but as we know, that wasn't established prior to. So knowing that this story was written many years before this, I kept wondering, why doesn't the Seventh Doctor remember it? So in my mind, automatically, this was not the Sixth Doctor. I knew it wasn't. So then when it's revealed, and again, I think the clone element wasn't so much a surprise. That he's only a few days old was neat.
And that there are a lot of him.
Yeah, that was a bigger...
That was neat. And that added some gravitas to the second part of this story. So I really quite enjoyed that. But for all the same problems that you had, I completely agree. I wanted to know a little bit more as to why Cassie was so easily manipulated. The clone aspect of it, I didn't have so much a problem because he was created in the lab, and so I thought maybe Nimrod had maybe a little more influence just based on the biology or science of it all. But yeah, Cassie was just seemed like a quick turn, and it almost seemed like...
Well, they tried to make it seem like it had been so long for her.
Yeah, it was more for the benefit of the shock, that twist, that they did it, and because it was cut down so much. Now, the interaction between Evelyn and the Sixth Doctor at the end of that part of the story was just heart-wrenching, and I really think that the performance there is what makes that first part. It's the best part of the first part. It's the fact that the Doctor seems so callous. He can't really explain why he is the way he is, and Evelyn has to learn that in the next story, which I think hugely benefits that scene as well.
Yeah.
I did leave the story wanting more forge, more exploration of what was going on and the purpose behind it.
It's almost like...
But also knowing that there's another story coming, it feels like it's an additional chapter.
It's almost like it's off-the-books Torchwood.
Yeah.
Because Nimrod has that line about, well, we're here to explore the alien technology that washes up on Earth. I mean, it's Torchwood before really Torchwood comes into its own as we know it. But this now begs the question, is like, okay, so who's bankrolling the Forge?
Yeah.
Is this something that is government-sponsored or private sector-sponsored, or is Nimrod really, really wealthy enough to be able to invest all this because he's a nut job and he thinks that it's important? There's any number of ways that could go, and I hope those questions are answered in the third one.
I bet they're not. And the only reason I say that is because I think there's some hope as to learning more about the Forge. Because the last part of this in the Big Finish Companion, the story of the Forge between Project Twilight, number 23, and Project Lazarus, number 45, is told in the Big Finish New Worlds novel, Project Valhalla. So it sounds like there's another medium that Big Finish was able to tell that story to give us a little more insight. And I'm hoping that when we eventually get to read Project Valhalla, maybe that's our next book report, perhaps that will maybe lend some satisfaction to these two stories. I don't think it will fix them, but I think that it will maybe add to these stories and make us appreciate what's going on here, knowing that there's a constraint of time when they do these stories. And in a novel, you can kind of flesh that out and make it bigger. And as we know, Big Finish has done some novels. And this sounds like this maybe is our answers to that. And I really think that what's the next one? That
I don't... Destiny?
Is it Destiny?
That might be right. That sounds familiar. Anyway, I don't think the next one's going to necessarily answer a lot of that, primarily because I think that's a Seventh Doctor story as well.
It is.
As Dr. Phil pointed out, that part of this trilogy actually will take place in the Seventh Doctor's timeline prior to the events in this one, for the Seventh Doctor. airport, Keith.
I just, like I said, I don't mean to diminish this story at all. From like I said, all of the stuff that we got, I thought was very, very good.
I think it's okay to diminish it,
But I just
because I think you have very good reasons to diminish it.
Like
but
I said, I don't want to come down on not liking it.
Yeah,
because
there you
I
go.
did like it.
Yeah.
I just wanted something a little different. I mean, I really felt like we had just tipped the iceberg in the first story with the vampirism and the Time Lord's response to the vampirism and how the Sixth Doctor handled it. And it seemed like all that just got chucked. We're not going to deal with any of that now. We're going to tell this story. It's like, well, okay, I can deal with that. I'm fine. And then all of that got chucked. And it was like, now we're off on the Seventh Doctor dealing with the ramifications of it. And it's like...
Well, tell me if I'm wrong, because I don't get the impression that Nimrod... I'm trying to remember my... I don't get the impression that I think the vampirism was satisfied...
Project Destiny.
Okay. Was satisfied fairly well in Project Twilight.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
what I remember.
that...
Aside from Cassie.
I think in this one, I think it's Cassie's story that isn't really delved into enough. It's that thin line, because I think they did a nice job of tying again that back to State of Decay and how it relates to those vampires.
Right.
But I think I think it's Cassie's situation, and obviously the vampire lore and characterization was all part of a grander scheme with Nimrod, obviously, because this one kind of lets us in to the fact that he's been doing experiments with axons and then a long line of they named off a bunch of things that he's done, and then now his ultimate goal was to collect a Time Lord essentially and do experiments there and try to further some sort of this project that the Forge has been working on. So
It's kind of fitting in a way that we reviewed this the week Jurassic World comes out.
yeah.
He's Henry Wu.
Well, and that's the thing, that the idea of the Project Lazarus and the through line of this, I thought was very interesting, of him trying to extend life and tap into what causes regenerations and recreate that. I thought fit in with the Forge and what we knew of them in their their vampire experiments and Nimrod as a character. I really like that aspect of it.
And
It almost doesn't quite get the justice it deserves because it's split into two parts.
That's the problem is there's these little things that just they feel like they're building on, and then they just don't feel like they go anywhere.
Well, and knowing that the Seventh Doctor shows up eventually in this story, when he's got Sixie strapped to the table and electroshocking him to, let's see if we can get him to regenerate. I thought that's where we were going with it, and then kind of surprised, that didn't happen. I was like, oh, okay. But
did anybody think when it's revealed that the Sixth Doctor is a clone, did anybody flash back to that whole they took his blood moment when she sticks him in the arm and he goes, he makes a...
I did remember that.
Yeah, so I did that. As soon as
they
flashback.
revealed that, I thought, oh yeah.
And it was one of those, oh yeah, okay, I should have just known.
poor Evelyn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's move into Arrangements of War, because I think that where this does a...
And good job, Sean, for scheduling these two together.
Yeah. Well, where this one does a good job of, like I said, that last moment between Evelyn and the Doctor in the first part of this story, I think the second story really does a nice job dealing with those.
Yeah, the ramifications of
Give
it.
us that review, Keith.
Arrangements for war. On board the TARDIS, nerves are strained. After escaping the Forge and the murderous clutches of Nimrod, the Doctor and Evelyn have things to talk about. The Doctor's attitude towards death is a subject that these days is too close to Evelyn's heart. And eventually she demands to be set down somewhere where she can be free of him for a while. So they come to Villag, where the Doctor's meddling lands him in the middle of a truly dangerous liaison, and Evelyn meets the man who wants to change the course of her life forever. Love is everywhere, but then war is too. Is it time for Evelyn to leave the Doctor, or is the choice about to be taken out of her hands? And who is to say that What is the beginning and what is the end of love?
Dun, dun, dun! I liked this one.
I think that's an appropriate dun, dun, dun. I often comment on the political stories and how they don't work for me. This political story works for me. I don't know what it is. I think they did such a good job exploring the political atmosphere and jumping forward and with the news reports for the time passing. It's just done so well and so well realized that there really isn't much in this story that doesn't work for me.
Well, and it's a little different from most of the political stories because there are good guys and bad guys within each, faction, but you never really feel like you get that, haha, I'm the evil vizier and I'm working against the king,
There's a little bit.
Factions.
There's one guy.
I think factions even the wrong word. I would say nations because they're established nations. Yeah.
But you never get that, there's people that are like, okay, you're going to cause problems, but not to the, you're playing nice this direction and not
you're the one behind it all.
Yeah,
there's a little bit, but then it starts going crazy.
It just seems like it's pretty well lined up right away that the people that it's like this guy's a problem, and everybody knows it. It's not that it's not necessarily a big secret, which I thought was kind of a nice touch. Again, the emotional content, the acting, pretty much across the board, top notch in this story. Very good, very well done, very enjoyable. I question the Doctor that he thinks 5 weeks before an alien invasion after an assassination attempt seems like a good place to go and rest. Maybe when you lead the life the Doctor lives, you're like, hey, that's
comparison.
That's,
compared to the Forge, that's calm.
Yeah. Now, admittedly, he did try to go to the Eye of Harmony first.
Yeah.
He did the number one tourist resort. No? Okay. How about this one? So...
I think what you pointed out about it is what I didn't like. I'll be honest here. I did when I started listening to this, and probably for the first maybe half of it, maybe not quite half of it, I kept thinking I'm not going to like this story. It's just there was too much of the political intrigue. There was too much of the political machinations
instead of dealing with the fallout of the emotional aspect.
And so it seemed like we had stepped away from Evelyn and the Doctor's story. We'd kind of separated them, and we had those nice moments where the Doctor's trying to contact Evelyn, and she's pretty much ignoring him. We had the moments between her and what was the guy's name?
Justice.
What was his first name? Justice.
Yeah. What was his last name? Rossiter. The moments between her and Rossiter and how we're really kind of getting a lot of her backstory through this relationship, and I really kind of liked that. But it was almost like it was one of these stories that it really felt very tropey. Like I knew where it was going. As you said, we had the one guy who is really setting things up, and it's real obvious that he's going to be the kink in this and this whole plan. And I even knew that the Doctor, when he starts meddling, I knew, Doctor, this is the wrong path. You know what's going to happen here. I know how. It really felt, I don't want to say predictable, but it felt familiar. And I thought, I just don't like the way this is going. It felt like War and Peace is what it felt like. And it felt like I was trudging through the first, at least third of this story. But when the little things that happen, like the villain of this, at one point starts to question the comment that the Doctor makes about the grander scale of things, and he even calls the leader of the one that was the attempted assassination, and has that sort of really eloquent diplomatic discussion with him about
what are the possible ramifications.
Of what's happening. And when he has that conversation with him, this story turned for me. I went, these aren't anything like they're setting up. They're really taking this nice left turn. And as Keith said, I thought that the passage of time was done really well through the news, even though that's tropey, but even through the news.
It's the spinning newspaper
Yeah,
of audio.
well, the way that they were disseminating what had happened between each of these broad spans of time as things were working through, I thought that was really well done. And it just, we keep using the words ramifications, but the ramifications of the situations that lead to the Doctor's imprisonment, to Evelyn's exile, to, it really started to work, and it started to click for me. And it was that second half of this story that everything really fell into place.
Well, and it's once you get to the point where there's the looming threat of the alien invasion coming.
Yeah,
when everything changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that having that alien invasion aspect to the story freshens it up completely.
And I sort of like how the alien invasion came in waves. It came in, just moved across, because it started in one country, and it was impending.
Oh, yeah.
You knew it was coming,
Yeah.
and so
It was working its way across this continent.
Yeah, fortunately, that was what it was able to give, our one team, our final country, the power to prepare for what was happening and to come to kind of their aid and actually stop it once everybody kind of came together.
I was a little worried that once the invasion happened, we'd drop all the political stuff and just focus on the war and the fighting, and we didn't. I like that we stayed on the political side of it, watching this invasion happen.
Yeah. So it works on that level, and it really made me appreciate the story as a whole, even though I felt like it was very tedious and boring there for a while.
It was world and character building a lot at the very beginning.
And it justified all of that character building
Yeah.
once we got to the meat of the story.
Well, two things. I'm going to say this real quick first. I've been meaning to bring this up. I know I talked about it once upon a time back in whenever.
The olden days. In ancient Gallifrey.
And I know it's bothered me, but I don't remember for sure. I'm pretty sure that I did bring it up on air. I really wish Big Finish would get the music licenses for the theme songs. Because it's just jarring when it's not that Doctor. Because I go into it expecting, I know it's a Seventh Doctor story and it doesn't have that theme to it. And then we've listened to so many of these, and I went, I'm nuts. I'm just completely off my rocker. But then the last couple of weeks, where we had some from the very beginning of the run and some of the later ones, I finally cued into the fact they didn't have the licensing initially, because it's the generic Fourth Doctor music for a Seventh Doctor story. And then later, the Sixth and Seventh Doctor's themes actually do come in. I don't remember at what point. It's somewhere in the 20s or something.
Now that you mention it, it wasn't until more recently that I cued in that, these are actually different themes for each story.
That it's the actual opening music for that particular Doctor's era.
I think you're right in a sense, but every time that they use when the Sixth Doctor and Mel show up, and when the Sixth Doctor and Evelyn show up in a story, it's usually, with the exception of maybe some of the early ones, it's usually the late Sixth Doctor. Travel Time Lord theme.
Slightly varied.
And whenever we do something that's set older than that with the Sixth Doctor, it's the theme most similar to the beginning of his era. And the same thing, the interesting thing with the Seventh Doctor, and I didn't notice it until now, is they're using kind of a generic theme for him, except for when it's he and Mel, they're actually using that Seventh Doctor from the series theme, but whenever he's on his own for Master, for the second part of Project Lazarus, it's that weird meld of, almost seems like a Fourth Doctor theme, and I think that's calculated. I think this is a version of a theme we would have heard, because these stories are set outside of that time that these would have been taking place.
Right, no, you're right there, but going even one step further, if you go back and listen to a Seventh Doctor story early, that theme music's not there at all.
Right.
Because it's just, we didn't have it. And so I'm glad that I finally, I meant to mention it last week when we talked about these, and I completely forgot about it.
Well, part of that's because we've been listening out of order, and we're way past the 20s, where they were finally
but it wasn't until we went back and pulled one and then went back in there. Yeah, and the McGann ones I don't mind, since he's got his own thing anyway. It's like, okay, whatever. But it finally dawned on me that, yes, I'm not crazy. Those weren't there originally, and they are there now. So I was like, okay. So,
but I like how they're taking a different theme based on where we're
the
at
era.
in
Yeah,
the
that's nice.
Doctor's timeline.
Yeah, it's the same thing with, there's a part of me that in the books, when you pick up a book, I don't like the fact that the books all have the same Who font on the front. Oh. I want the logo. That's an identifier for me.
That era.
That helps set the era. And it's just
Well, the nice thing is the Target novelizations eventually started to do that. All the old stories had that old logo. And in fact, at one point, the marketing stuff went to the diamond logo for a little while. But if you'll notice, a lot of the McCoy novelizations late in the Target series, they actually have the Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, all of like the
fancy writing.
The fancy writing. All of the not the New Adventures, but the like you were reading the Eighth Doctor ones. That well, I guess technically the Eighth Doctor ones would have
The Eighth
that
Doctor
logo,
ones have that standard
that
logo. I like
Third
to
Doctor
call it.
revised. Yeah.
But
But at any rate,
that goes to a. I agree, and I see where you're coming from. That goes to a when Worldwide was marketing things, they were trying to stay consistent, so that
uniform.
outside, the uniformity of it was outside of what was you
sure, and it works for me fine on the DVDs. Like I like the fact that all the DVD spines line up, but I just on everything else, I want my logo, I want my theme music, I want my that's all set dressing to immerse myself in this era of this Doctor. And so I'm glad that Big Finish got the music together and is doing it right. Okay, so enough of that. Go for it.
Gabriel Wolf, who played Rossiter, as Dr. Phil pointed out, was Sutek in the TV Adventure Appearance of Mars, was also the voice of the Beast in The Impossible Planet and Satan Pit.
Really?
Interesting.
I didn't know that. Did anybody else, when the Doctor meets this young lad and starts bending his ear about, well, by golly, yes, you should go after this woman if you love her, and it doesn't matter. And did anybody else have that? Oh no!
Yeah,
just right off the bat,
oh, yeah.
that sinking, even before the reveal came, it was like, don't do it. Oh,
but what makes it so much worse is the fact that he and Evelyn have had this row, and you feel so bad that they're at this point in their relationship that this has happened. And he's meaning well, and he's taking her on a vacation. It's something that she can clear her head, and he all but promises her that this is safe because he knows the events that's going to happen and play out, and then changes them inadvertently.
And it's frustrating because he's not wrong.
No.
I mean,
the
it's not like he's giving bad advice. It's that whole speech is like, yeah, you should go get the girl and
right speech, wrong person.
Yeah. But it didn't hit me really until afterward. Because, again, this is like everybody with hugs and cookies and puppies. And I kind of feel like, I could use some of that.
Some of this, for me, is the hugs and cookies and puppies. Because as devastating as the beginning of the story is, the fact that the Doctor and Evelyn have come to this new level in their relationship and everything's more or less okay with them helps the story a lot too.
It's that end cap. It's where she's monkeyed with the circuits, and we're there, and we get this window and into this private moment of these people.
His acting in that bit
Colin Baker knocks it out of the park in this one. He's so good.
If you ever wonder his range, you just listen to the story
But it's the end that really puts that bow on,
and the fact that Evelyn then gets the Doctor and why he's this way.
Yeah, and that door opens not only on this private moment with these two, but that door opened to the Doctor, and she sees it and knows now how to that damn broke. And I mean, it's probably one of those things in the Doctor's life that there might have been every 200 or 300 years one of these moments that he just he keeps everything pent up and then it finally crumbles, and he's got to we all need a good cry every now and then, and this is the Doctor's good cry. But I love the fact that we stayed with them quietly on the bench, just having this it's the most important discussion of their relationship, and yet it doesn't feel like it. That it's just this kind of back and forth, and you can tell that they've reached that moment. And he says, "Come here, I think we both need a cuddle." And it's just like, yeah, okay, I'm good. I got my hug.
I had a Star Trek moment in this one. Star Trek OTS. And
TOS.
TOS. Maybe you'll yeah, not soundtrack. Maybe you'll appreciate this.
That'd be
Let's
OST.
see. As I'm listening
Over
to
the
this,
shoulder. Star Trek over the shoulder.
I'm always trying to. Yeah, that's right. I'm always trying to imagine what society looks like. I visualize in my head what the society of this planet must look like. From down to the technology and the look and the fashion, everything about that. I try to imagine that in my head. And a lot of times, most of the time, Big Finish does a very good job of filling me in with my imagination. And if they don't, a lot of times I can look at the box art, or I can look at back when Doctor Who magazine was doing the little 2 or 3 panel comic things that they would do with it. Some of them I've posted and used for our trailers. In this one, I was struggling for a little while, trying to figure out why I couldn't place visually what this place looked like. And then it hit me. This is Earth. I mean, it's not. It's what is it? Killian?
Yeah,
they were called Killians. And it's because I was hearing cars and trains and machine guns, and I thought, this is a Star Trek episode where we just didn't do anything with the budget and said, this is just a society that's evolved just like Earth.
Just on a single planet.
And we've landed on another planet that's just like very similar to Earth. And so it wasn't until much later in this story that I went, that's why I can't picture it, because I'm trying to shut out Earth technology and Earth fashion, and that's what it is. It's here. But you do that a lot, especially in old Star Trek. It's like, well, we landed on a planet that's pretty much mimicked Earth. They may be set they may be still in the Old West time when we get there, or they might be set in the 1930s when we get there. But it's just, that was actually an Earth episode. But, so it was one of those things I was like, I'm struggling with this because it's old Star Trek.
But weren't there some references to some advanced technology that we don't have here, at least?
The other thing was the fact that I almost got the impression that they had never had contact with an alien species.
No, this was definitely
this was
contact.
their first contact.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the Doctor is, but they don't realize it. So it was just one of those things where I was like, we have a really problem with this society. Oh, okay, that's why.
I see. They made such a big deal over the water gardens and the roses and all this kind of stuff, and then the palace,
the music, how they lulled
yeah.
to it, yeah.
And so
that was a bit fantastic.
I went Naboo.
No,
That was what I saw was the Naboo palace.
Well, considering it's
Star Wars.
all one continent and the rest is water, you can almost that helps lend to the idea.
But and I liked Evelyn and Rossiter together. I really hope. It didn't hit me until after the story ended, because I'm so caught up in the emotions and the drama of what's going on that I just kind of want to beat Evelyn around the head and shoulders a little bit and go, he has a time machine. He can go anywhere in space. There's a hospital out there that can cure this. You have an Earth disease. You don't have that disease.
But for the same reason that she changes the time the time coordinates and stops the Doctor from having his Time Lord victorious moment, for that same reason is why she would never ask the Doctor, because she has learned that. She has gotten that. I think it took her. I think every companion has that moment, Rose and Father's Day, where they have to learn why there are reasons why the Doctor can't break those laws. And when the Doctor actually goes so far to almost do it this time, and she has to fix it really bad.
But this one, I don't even see this as breaking a law of time. We don't even have to talk about time travel. We just have to go get her a pill on a planet X. What is it?
Yeah,
it'll fix you.
Her heart.
Okay.
But wouldn't that go just a little too far in meddling with her timeline? I mean, they already are by the fact of traveling.
But you can't observe something without changing.
The idea, though, is to, even though it never happens, is to drop the companion off where they left, so that their life continues as it was.
What I personally would like to see happen.
Ian and Barbara, no.
You go down the list. And, nope.
Dodo,
nope.
no. Well, Dodo, maybe. Stephen, no. Just go down
Sarah
the list.
Jane, no. Leela, no. But I would like to see at the end of Evelyn's run, which I don't want to think about.
I don't either.
But
It was real heartbreaking just to hear her talk about a heart condition.
Yeah.
Well, especially
when we get there, I would like to see her come back and live out her days with
Well, if there is some hope, the Big Finish Companion alludes to the fact that this is the last time we see the Killians.
Is not?
Is not the last time.
Here's hoping.
Although none of them are in the main range. But no, I'm just kidding.
What?
there are novels elsewhere.
No!
Yeah, there's a novel that kind of explains the Killians. No. If you want to know, they will appear in the sequel to this play, if that's a hint. Thicker Than Water, number 73, as well as the Bernice Summerfield Adventures, in which Adrian is a Killian who works at the Baxitial Collection and is father of Benny's son. Oh, spoilers. They also appear in the Gallifrey audio dramas Lies 2.01 and Pandora 2.03. Season 2, Episode 3.
Yeah.
So for people that haven't had a first contact, they sure jumped in there, didn't they?
Well, I think
once you open the floodgates.
everything's out the door when alien invasion happens. It's like, well, there's a whole nother world
Unless
out
it's
there.
Earth. Then we just kind of go,
Then we pretend it
was
didn't happen
swamp gas.
or forget about it. Yeah, it was an internet hoax.
100-foot Cyberman stomping down the streets of Victorian
No
London.
one-
Nobody remembers
It's
that?
the government.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Very happy with these.
Yeah, I was happy with both of them, despite the problems with the first one.
And they pair up so well together.
Well, of course they did. Sean had a plan.
He did.
Occasionally, I know what I'm doing.
Although apparently he didn't pair this one with its sequel, according to...
Nope, going to make you wait.
Now, there's a lot of times that the classic series had sequels that we didn't know about until they happened. So
Yeah.
that's the important thing. All right, what do we got coming up on the schedule, Sean?
Well, next week, as some of you may or may not know, is Father's Day. So to celebrate...
I do know.
You do know. Did you know that?
I do know.
It's Father's Day.
This is one in every, 6-7 years that actually falls on my birthday.
It's also Glenn's birthday next year. But we'll be focusing on Father's Day.
I thought we were doing that episode about that guy's birthday.
No.
No?
What day of the doctor? Is there a birthday episode of Doctor Who?
That's the closest, I would think.
There is a Happy Death Day in the comics, I believe.
Isn't that kind of opposite of birthday?
Yeah. It doesn't work for me.
That's more of an unbirthday than an unbirthday.
Very merry unbirthday. Wait, I just realized today is my unbirthday. So we'll be doing Father's Day with Christopher Eccleston for Friday Night Who this week. So if you are able, please join in. It's a lot of fun. And obviously, this one should be readily available to all of you. I would hope.
I don't have your copy of Father's Day.
Yeah, can we talk a little bit about
Saturday morning, I shot straight up and went, did it again.
I was here, James was here. He's like, any issues this week? I was like, nope. Keith got me I'm set. I'm ready to go. Couldn't get it to stream. It stutter stepped through the whole thing and it just kept freezing. And then once it froze, it locked up. We'd reboot it. We'd start over. I'd move the timeline a little bit further to catch up with where we. And then, okay, we're good. And we'd get about 3 minutes, and then it would lock
And
up.
you
And
went,
it was like, I'm done.
I wondered why you were quiet.
Yeah,
I did this thing. I shot up. I shot out of bed Saturday morning, thinking I was going to get it to you in time. Then realizing no, it's a whole day after. And then I did the big gasp. And then I thought, well, he didn't call me, so he must have got it working. Okay, he must have got a copy and got it taken care of. So then I kind of placated that until just now.
Now you feel
okay, so now you were there.
I was there.
Did our episode skip a chunk? Because you get the recap where Shakai has got Perry on the ground and he's looming over her going, and then all of a sudden we skipped to he and the second Doctor were like already in town, and it's like I remember there being
you skipped a lot
because the timeline didn't move. The timeline on the
really
bar
weird.
was still like 2 or 3 minutes in. And
Well,
we
I
were
wonder
still-
if you had
I remember
I
scenes.
wonder if you had been scrubbing around so much to get it to
No, that was the
catch
first
back
one.
up. Oh, that was the first
That was
time.
the
That's
first
really
one.
weird.
Yeah,
That is-
so
that's a
I was
big
watching
jump.
the same version you had.
And you
And
just didn't do
it
it.
didn't do that.
Okay. Well, yeah. I don't. It must. My whole system must have just crashed. So, but it's like
Really
I
doesn't
remember
like that
that
AVI.
scene with them in the back of the horse cart, and I remember this.
Yeah.
You want to add injury to insult?
You didn't watch
When
it.
I realized, well, no, I didn't watch it. I didn't join. You know what I realized Wednesday of last week? That I actually bought this on iTunes because I didn't think I was going to be able to get a DVD version ever. And I must have bought it a long time ago. So I have your copy and a copy I could have watched at home. And I didn't show up either week.
I made James a promise. We wound up talking about Tomorrowland, so it was all good. But I made James a promise, like, I will have you over at some point in time, not Friday Night Who related, and we're just going to sit down. We're going to watch all 6 parts of this, or all, because it's been too long, and I don't remember most of it. It's like, okay. He was like, all right, I'd be down for that.
It's 3 parts, isn't it?
3 parts.
It's the equivalent of a 6-parter, but
Yeah.
it's only 3. So anyway, Father's Day with Christopher Eccleston on Friday Night Who, and then Great Fathers in Doctor Who. So we're gonna tackle this topic, and we want your input.
I can think of 2.
I can pretty much assure you Davros will not be on the best of list.
I guess he would be considered a father, I suppose.
He needs to learn to cut the string.
Loosely defined.
I have some ideas. Maybe we'll do another game show next week.
Ooh, that'd be fun. That'd be fun, like we did with Adric.
Yeah.
Okay. That's how you have to do it now, because I'm all excited for it.
With a more positive outcome than whatever. Maybe this time the winner will actually, maybe first of all, maybe we'll have a winner, and maybe he will win the car this week. Adric, not so much, but so there's that, and then
There'll be more than one contestant.
Oh, that's true.
2 that I can think of.
Maybe we can do, I don't know, one of those behind the panel "Who Am I" things. That would be kind of fun. I don't know.
This is your life.
We'll put something together. And then the following week is the Aztecs. So going old school with William Hartnell. And then a couple of 8th Doctor Big Finish adventures, Phobos and No More Lies from season 1 of the 8th Doctor adventures with Paul McGann. So you guys are really excited, I can tell.
Or 8th Doctor, yay.
I'm enjoying the 8th Doctor
Good.
stories.
Because you might get even more.
Better than that Divergent Universe crud we did.
Every time one of those shows up on Facebook where somebody jumps onto the Big Finish site and the Big Finish Facebook page and says, "So I'm new to all this 8th Doctor stuff, and I'm curious to know where to start." And I start seeing people go, "Oh, I enjoyed this story, and there's inevitably a Divergent Universe one in that list.
And when they do, don't you go, no?
I have a
At least not jumping on there.
I have a very hard time going,
Don't jump on it.
Don't jump on there at all.
Divergent Universe.
You may like it, but don't recommend it.
Everybody needs to experience the Divergent, but don't start anybody there.
I think there's a K in Knucklehead. But yeah, so I have a very hard time not jumping on all those posts and going, "What are you doing? Don't send them there first. I mean, they can get there, but don't send them first." But then again, if they like Paul McGann, we've always said Paul McGann's the best part of these. So
That's true.
It's certainly true. They're going to be confused.
A lot of it won't make sense.
more schedule is going to be forthcoming. We've got a couple.
Because it's the Divergent Universe. Just because some of those stories just didn't make any sense.
We
For a
have
whole different reason.
we have more schedule forthcoming. We've got a couple kinks to iron out before we get it posted, but we will let you know as soon as we know. And of course, one of those kinks for our scheduling, not necessarily for us, is British Fest coming up in July. It's the week of the 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Yes.
In Omaha. We're technically in Council Bluffs, but it's right next door at Omaha.
Under a month.
Under a month now, so we're very much looking forward to that. And Glenn, unfortunately, will not be attending this year, but Keith and I will be there for sure on Saturday and Sunday. So if you are in the Omaha Council Bluffs area in Nebraska, or Council Bluffs, Iowa, if you're in the area, you know where that's at. If you're not in the area, Google it. Because we're not going to
come to the area.
We're not going to get into another geography lesson here. But please come. It's all things British. There's going to be Doctor Who. There's going to be Harry Potter. There's going to be James Bond. There's going to be all kinds of stuff. And of course, Simon Fisher-Becker is the guest
Friend
of
of
honor.
the show.
Friend of the show, Simon Fisher-Becker could be there. And so hopefully a lot of fun. There's
Other guests.
Other guests, Mark Ryan, who was in Transformers as the voice of Bumblebee, and the second Doctor cosplayer, I cannot remember his name. He's not a cosplayer. He's an actual impersonator of the second Doctor. He looks like Patrick Troughton. It's uncanny how much this guy looks like Patrick Troughton. He'll be there. Good time had by all. We will be
Sean
there.
Connery's son, I'm blanking on his first name.
Jason, although I think Jason had a filming commitment actually come
I
up.
think I heard that too.
You're
yeah.
right. Yeah, I did see that. I'm right about that.
But at any rate, there will be all kinds of stuff. We're looking forward to seeing Moose and our friends up north. So if you're in the area or plan to be in the area or think you might want to come, by all means, come on down. You can find their information online at, I believe it's British Fest at Weebly. BritishFest.weebly.com, I think is their website.
Google search British Fest. It'll come up.
Yeah, just Google search it, and we'll put a link in the show notes. I'll make Glenn work this week.
It's just BritishFest.com.
It is just British. Okay, so BritishFest.com. And but yeah, we're very much looking forward to it. So as soon as we kind of get a little more finalized on the plans with the con season starting for us, we will keep you informed. And as always, you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. And if you have not yet, we would love to have you visit our Patreon page and make a donation. And for those of you that are active on Patreon and supporting us, thank you so much for doing that, because you allow us to not only continue to produce the high level of quality programming you've come to expect here on this program, but we get to do fun things like game shows. So that's
exactly right.
well, we promise all new sound effects next week. So, so there is that.
I want to thank everybody that was active in the past months. I do believe that we have had at least one and maybe two patron subscribers who have increased perhaps their pledge to us. And I would love to give props, but they know who they are. And if you've had to adjust and take your monthly pledge down a little bit, we understand. It is hard times. But for those of you that have increased their pledge, we certainly appreciate that so much. I'm looking at a certain somebody in Atlanta. And please continue to help us, because, again, all of that support goes right back into this show.
Well,
And remember, if you're so inclined, you can also visit our Spreadshirt shirt site.
we have a show.
Spreadshirt show, all about Spreadshirt.
Is this on Periscope?
And purchase merch for Traveling the Vortex merchandise.
You just really say merch.
Merch.
Walter Murch, editor. No.
Yeah, and show your pride as a listener with Traveling the
spread
Vortex merchandise.
Traveling the merchandise.
Travel our merchandise. Pick something out. Buy it.
Merchandising, where the real money from the podcast is made.
And then obviously you can buy things on the Amazon.com through our site, and some of that money goes to us as well. So,
and again, with just a quick note on the Patreon thing, that is, we love hearing from everybody. We love the feedback. We love the fact that our listeners, interact with us, on a weekly basis. That's just awesome. Whether it's through Facebook or Twitter or the Friday Night Who or whatnot, but getting not only a donation, but an increase in a donation on Patreon is, for me, I don't know how you guys feel about it, such a vote of confidence.
it
that
certainly is.
I kind of feel like,
Hey, we're doing something right.
yeah, I mean, I show up and I do my little show, and that's kind of it. And then to get that is kind of, that's more important to me than an award.
Yeah,
it's just like somebody genuinely thinks enough of us to go, okay, continue to come into my living room or my earballs while I'm driving. So, thank you.
And I do want to say a shout out to Lisa, Dan, Brenda, Kirk, Alex, Caroline, Mitch, Hugh Brannigan, Chrissy, Eric, and Vincent. I think you all should get praise for helping us out. You all are Patreon subscribers. We'd like to add to that list. If you want to hear your name called out, say, how's that for baiting?
There you go.
If you want your name called out, we'll do this again, and we'll thank you. If there's anybody I miss, forgive me. I'm looking at the most current list that I have. So.
And no, I haven't forgotten about the gift baskets that go out to those people.
Yes,
No, I have not. Believe me, they're weighing very heavily on my mind. They're not done, but I haven't forgotten about them. They're in progress still. It's a terrible burden that you've all placed on me. That you were all so awesome. I was not prepared for the initial wave of work that I was going to have to do to put that together, and I do work on it. So, yes, it's forthcoming. I promise you, it's forthcoming. I haven't forgotten.
And I keep threatening a pledge drive, but I can see that on the horizon. I can see it on the horizon. That could be fun. I think we do. I think we'd have fun with the pledge drive.
Can we have phones?
Yes, we can have fun.
I want to
Absolutely.
You can't have a pledge drive without phones.
I want to answer a phone.
Yep.
Hello?
Old phones, not even cell phones. You gotta have
The big with the flashing light.
yeah.
And
You know what we could do is we could have the Five-ish Fangirls on our show to help us with our pledge drive.
Ooh.
That would be fun. Maybe we'll have to make that happen. we'll have them in the back answering the phones. They'll be like those people you see but never hear from. Well, the Five-ish Fangirls are here this week. They're answering the phones. Ladies, wave.
Wave at the camera.
which works so well on an audio podcast.
We're going to do something. So,
Bongo
All right.
the Dancing Bear. I wish you could see this at home. If you'd like to not see more of this kind of programming.
Is there anything else, guys?
You've got me so excited to do a pledge drive show now.
And all of our listeners are going, oh
God, no.
No, not a pledge drive. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
And send pledges.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.